In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming pattern here. I just want to dive into how the models have progressed with everything that we have upcoming here. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter video, a little bit different than we've been doing. Just wanted to give you guys a quick update on these models, and we're going to really break things down starting tomorrow. And it's really been, busy during the holidays, and I know everybody's busy right now, so I want to keep these pretty brief. For the time being, we can see that by the time we are reaching Friday afternoon tomorrow on the 29th, we actually have a pretty mild cooldown. I'll switch this from yellow to black in a second. I have no idea what's going on there. But we do have this kind of minor trough, and why I call it this is because it's not featuring very major cool air. It's more like near normal to slightly below normal cold air, so marginally cold. This is going to be significantly colder than things were over Christmas, and even until recently here. Things have been much warmer than normal, so it will be a pretty stark difference between that and now this, what we expect upcoming, but still in the grand scheme of things compared to your historic averages, this isn't going to be severe by any means. By the time we reach Saturday, what we have happening, it's pretty interesting actually. We have a pretty minor storm moving onshore to the west. It's very broad though, so we see many states up and down that west coast impacted by this one. We have a big time ridge up the west coast, so this is featuring warmer air. We're going to call this a positive PNA. We have a more major cold air mass here, and then a weaker one here to the south. So it's like a double dipping trough. So minor trough here, and then very severe trough trying to move in here from the north. So we're going to put a positive, and it's a little confusing, a positive next to the stronger one, negative next to the weaker one. So that positive one has a lot more energy with it, and it's going to really get ramped up here as we reach the very final day here of 2023. I can't believe I'm saying that, but here on the 31st, it's going to be Sunday, final day of 2023. Can't believe it. This trough is going to be diving in by this point, so we see that it is taking full swing effect here into the Midwest. It's going to kind of rotate back out here to the east, and we're going to see the center of it over the east here in just a moment. As far as storms by this point, things are a lot quieter, as you can see. I mean, really nothing too dramatic to speak of by this point. It's as we reach here on January 1st, New Year's Day on Monday, things get a little bit more extreme. We have a little bit more of a flatter jet stream, and then this, again, more severe trough still featured over the eastern states. We're even seeing some snowfall showers along the Appalachian Mountain Range here, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, down through the rest of the Appalachian Mountains there. Very interesting. Let's take this towards Tuesday here on January 2nd. Still no real major storms to discuss. We did come very close to seeing something try to develop out here, but it slides innocently offshore. There is some very low chance of this making its way a little bit closer to the coast. This could bring some wind, rainfall, maybe even wintry precipitation for some spots along the east. Tough to say for sure. As of now, it doesn't look like this is going to impact the coast at all, but that could change in a hurry depending on how we see things unfold here over the next couple of days. This is still 5 days out, so certainly still some time for change there. Wednesday here on the 4th, or on the 3rd into the 4th here, we have 1004 in Louisiana, Millibar Low Pressure Center. Very strong trough behind it. It kind of ascending towards the east, so we expect this one to kind of slide along that here as this cold air moves in. The timing of this is everything, so let's just keep this going. And you can see that this actually does bring some snowfall here to some of these areas in the interior areas. And we've actually seen the National Weather Service point this area out as an area that has some chance at seeing some snowfall throughout the next couple of weeks into January. We've seen them indicate that the central or the more inland eastern states could be featuring some heavy snowfall. They've listed it as a low chance for now, but certainly they're pointing out that there is some chance upcoming. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, as I saw that this morning. This is only part of that on Thursday into Friday here. We can see this is a broad low area. We can see that this is kind of all the low pressure in here. We see snowfall showers for New England and the Northeast as a result of this. Thursday into Friday moves out extremely quickly before we get hit with an even more brutal cold air mass. So you can tell that this is a lot more active than we saw here for pretty much the entire month of December, if we're being honest. Nothing too crazy. The cold is definitely there, especially when comparing things to December. Some snowfall opportunities, which we cannot say that for December whatsoever. So certainly things are taking a step up in the right direction. And I think that's something to feel very, very positive about if you're a cold and snow lover, or if you just want to see things be at least climatologically normal. Anyway, let's keep going. I want to take you through this. We see that by time we reach the end of the model run here, we see that cold air mass kind of take over. We get another one moving into the west with very intense snowfall happening as the result of a Colorado low pressure system here. This does tend to, if it moves in this direction, force cold air to move eastward. That could be pretty interesting, especially since we see this kind of beginning of a coastal storm setting up. If we saw this cold air move eastward and saw this storm move up the coast, there's some potential there for more activity down the road as well. So certainly take note of that. As we move into the GFS model, let's just roll through it. I mean, we see that later on we do get that kind of fourth, fifth system, although it's much further towards the coast here. We get more activity back towards the Gulf of Mexico, but overall this kind of Gulf of Mexico into the southeast freight train of storms is still set up. We also have a storm moving through the northwest by the fourth here on this GFS model. And then we get this coastal system that wants to come together. We have a 985 down here, 994 here. So this storm to the south is kind of just rotating around that upper low. So we should see this one kind of try to move northward here. Yeah, we do see that kind of happen, curl in. It drops all the way down to a 975 millibar low pressure center, brings some heavy snowfall here as we approach that 6th, 7th time frame. This is extremely far out, and there's a lot of room for change, but I think the big picture here is that there is still some major snowstorms showing up on the models here. And then here's where we get that trough in the west, but it does move eastward, like I mentioned, and look at this monster of a storm for the Ohio Valley, portions of the Midwest, and some of the Northeast here. 993, we get a very heavy snowfall event here, especially through the Ohio Valley, like I mentioned. And eventually that moves out through the Northeast. And then we're left with colder temperatures again in the east. But look at this, we're trending at some snowfall for the southeast corridor again. So definitely these models are continuing to pick up on those signals. Going to be interesting to track. It is a very positive thing to see this GFS model trending back at this positive PNA, continuing to be a force that really brings impacts to us, because this allows for this Arctic jet or polar jet to really dive into the east here, and that's continuing to bring the cold air, and as you can see, potential snow showers throughout the east. So definitely very, very interesting. As far as snowfall, the European model, we did get a couple of snow events, including this interior eastern storm bringing some snowfall through there. As you can see, the west, obviously, it's not even worth mentioning. They're going to see snowfall regardless this time of year. It doesn't take a lot, and it would be much weirder if there was none than if there was some. The GFS model, we get kind of this northeast system, which brings a general 2 to maybe 10 inches of snowfall, depending on where you're at. This storm for the Ohio Valley into the northeast, we get a lot more, potentially 10 to 20 inches in there. And then again, the west, seeing a lot of snowfall out there. Definitely not really worth mentioning, though, because that's typical for this time of year. Nothing too crazy. Now, anyway, for the temperature pattern, I just want to walk you guys through it. We get this marginal cold event, mostly slightly warmer compared to normal for the north, and then slightly cooler for the southeast. I mean, even some areas in there featuring a little bit further below normal, perhaps 10 to 15 degrees below average. We get a brief warm up, another cool down here. Again, the greens featuring pretty far below average temperatures. I think it's worth mentioning that in El Nino events, it's very typical for these areas here to feature below normal temperatures, and the north to be a little bit warmer than those southern counterparts. And we've been seeing a lot of that trending in on these models. I think it's worth looking into and thinking about for sure. Instead of a southeast ridge, it's kind of like a southeast trough in a way. It's perhaps the opposite, and we get another event. So let's count them down. I mean, we get 1, 2, 3, perhaps 4 here. It's an ensemble model, so we start to get averaged out, but maybe even a 5th here by the time we're reaching about the 12th. So certainly something that we're seeing trend in multiple of these southeast cool events. Gonna be interesting to track for sure. It is interesting that the southeast and mid-Atlantic look more favorable than areas to their north. That's not to say that they have a better chance of snowfall, but certainly when you compare the temperatures and the precipitation to average, those are the areas that are benefiting the most from this pattern, which is super, super interesting, but pretty El Nino-like, honestly. looking from a climate standpoint. So really interesting weather ahead. We're going to be tracking it with you guys daily. So be sure to subscribe as we do upload daily videos here on the channel. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.